Recording in progress.
This time we'll call to order the meeting of May 16th, 2022. Before we move to closed session, City Attorney, is there any comments you'd like to make?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If the City Council so moves, it will go into closed session to discuss the item agendized for closed session discussion, which is item number 1, public employee appointment, title City Attorney, pursuant to Government Code Section 54957. That's all, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Do we have any comment cards?
I have no speakers, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. He said he's going to be running late.
Help them work with each other.
little square blocks that you see on them, those are shape charges. And what they are is when a missile hits, I mean, it's like that, the shape charges are supposed to blow out. Dissipate, but it's supposed to neutralize that missile. And they're not working, Russian tanks, everyone I see, those shape charges don't look like they ever went off.
Park doing over there. Yeah.
Well, we found out the 23rd of March, that was Easter.
It is Memorial Day.
Definitely changing times, that's for sure.
Are you watching it okay? Hey, stranger. About to get into this. Yeah, I know. Did you like that thing anymore? Did you see him? No. Funny, Mac just thought it was hilarious that I sent it to you.
Just for
The other one is like all the way at the end. Oh, Lord. Yeah.
Yeah, the contract. Yeah, no, I like to be careful when I try and get I went and looked at the parking over there from the Porto, and it's open. People park there.
Oh, okay, so.
The sidewalk's closed on San Benito Street.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but the alleyway's open?
No, the alley's not open. So that's what you're talking about. Well, that's part of that agreement that's expired, so we just need to kick them out.
Right.
This time we'll call to order the meeting of May 16th, 2022. Vice Mayor Perez will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you, sir. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Burns,
Here.
Vice Mayor Perez,
Present.
Mayor Velasquez.
Here.
Mayor Velasquez,
Here.
City Manager Miller,
Here.
City Attorney Epperson,
Here.
Chief of Police Reynoso,
Here.
and the record will show Council members Resendez and Morales is absent.
Mr. Resendez said he'd be here a little late. He's going to make it as soon as he can.
Verification of agenda posting. The agenda for the City of Hollister City Council regular meeting of May 16th, 2022 was posted on the bulletin board at City Hall on May 11th, 2022 at 10:30 a.m. per Government Code Section 54954.2.
Thank you. City Attorney, would you please report out of closed session?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, the report out of closed session is that the city council discussed in closed session the item agendized for closed session discussion. Direction was given to staff, no other reportable action was taken, and the city council recessed from closed session at 6:19 p.m. That's all, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. We're going to now move to the consent agenda. Are there any items council would like to pull?
Mayor Velazquez.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I don't have any items to pull, but I would request the direction of the council to pull item G3 and K1, respectively, the code enforcement report and then the successor agency report to after public comment. I know that specifically in the successor agency one, the last council meeting, the presenter was here at like 10:45, and my request to bring it back was so that it would be at an earlier time where others might view it and I might better understand it. So thank you, Mayor.
Is there a consensus to?
Yes.
Okay. We'll go ahead and do that. Thank you. Was there any items from the public?
I have none, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye. Yes.
All right. Motion carries. We'll now go to public input.
I'm sorry, I missed that motion, please. Who made the motion? And Tim, thank you.
Got it? Is my microphone working? Can you hear it? Barely? How's that? Put it in my mouth here. All right, public input. This is the time for anyone in the audience to speak on any item not on the agenda and within the subject matter jurisdiction of the council. Speaker cards are available in the lobby and are to be completed and given to the city clerk before speaking. When the city clerk calls your name, please come to the podium, state your name and city for the record, and speak to the city council. If you are joining us by Zoom, please click on the bottom of your screen to raise your hand. If you are joining us by Zoom using a cell phone, please press *9. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes with a maximum of 30 minutes per subject. Please note that state law prohibits the City Hall or City Council from discussing or taking action on any item not on the agenda. Do we have any speaker cards?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Elias Salinas.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. I am here to request that you agendize an item for discussion and clarification on what authority the mayor has to be speaking out on behalf of the entire city, or if he's speaking on himself, he should be representing himself and not as the mayor. It seems that the comments that are being made on social media, he speaks as the mayor, that you're speaking for the entire council. It is up to the entire council to either hold him to policy and rules. If you condone his actions or you do not, you need to clarify that. Right now, he's out there giving out purposely misinformation regarding anything that's going on in the county. And he's out there representing himself as, hi, I'm Ignacio Velasquez, I'm the mayor, and blah, 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 blah. Are you authorizing this as an entire council? Because he's speaking out there as a representation of the entire city. The entire city does not agree with what is being said, and you must represent your constituents. Misinformation out there that there is zero water coming into San Benito County from San Luis Dam. The misinformation is that he states is that although he fails to claim that the city of Hollister and Sunny Slope Water District are getting blue valve water from San Luis Dam. There are 1,478 houses and 8 in city of Hollister that were built through 2021, and there are 880 homes that were built in San Benito County, and he is out there as a mayor representing your entire city, claiming that there are thousands and thousands of homes. This is not true. You need to hold him accountable because he's speaking on behalf of the entire council. If you do not say anything, it means you condone it. You must represent your entire constituents. Again, the misinformation, under what authority is this happening? You have policy and you have government codes that you must obey, and you all just passed it in March of last year. Please, I request that you guys discuss this as a council, whether he's representing your entire opinions out there as the mayor. And I speak up here on behalf as an individual and nothing else other than I want to hold him accountable, and that is what I do. When people do not tell the truth that are government elected officials, I come forward and I give out the correct information. This is nothing else than what I'm doing here, and I would do any other time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dennis Martin.
Good evening, Mayor Velasquez and City Council members. I'm Dennis Martin, speaking on behalf of the Building Industry Association, BIA Bay Area. BIA is speaking to you tonight regarding the very high residential building permit fees that are adding thousands of dollars to the cost of building new housing in Hollister. BIA respectfully requests that the City Council direct the manager to schedule this issue on the council agenda in the near future and to respond to BIA information that we have submitted showing that the city is overcharging for building permit services. About 1 year ago, the City Council adopted a new fee schedule based on a Willdan Financial Services study from 2020 that claimed to show the city needed to raise fees by nearly 400% in order to provide full cost recovery of planning and building services. A recommendation from city staff and the consultant was to phase in fees over a 4-year time frame was ignored by the council, who proceeded to adopt fees at the full levels in the Willdan report. And immediately, building permit fees for new residential construction shot up to over $25,000 per single family house, much more than any neighboring jurisdiction and some of the highest building permit fees in the whole South Bay area. Now, BIA believes that the city staff and consultant reports failed to provide all the information the council needed prior to making this decision. Importantly, the reports failed to include a comparison of building permit fees in neighboring jurisdictions. BIA has completed and submitted to the city manager such a comparison of building permit fees in 6 neighboring jurisdictions that shows Hollister charges twice as much as the highest next jurisdiction, Santa Cruz County, and nearly 3 times more than the San Benito County Building Department. Other questions that BIA has raised with the fee adoption include failure in the Willdan report to demonstrate analysis for then current building permit cost recovery at 21%, and failure of the Willdan report to demonstrate that new fee amounts constitute 100% cost recovery. BIA points out at this time that city fees can only be set to the cost of providing services, and that fees cannot be set at an exceedingly high level in order to try to recuperate past years of inaction to adjust fees to full cost recovery. And it should go without saying that high fees should never be used to discourage home building. To reiterate, BIA is requesting that the City Council agendize this item for discussion in the near future and to provide adequate legal notice of the agenda schedule. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
John Roble.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members, other dignitaries. My name is John Roble, and I'm here representing the Ancient and Honorable Order of the Clampus Vitus Monterey Viejo chapter. What we do is put plaques, historical plaques, here and there for various historical activities that have happened over time. Before you should be a packet that looks something like this, but the top of it's in color. And it shows an image of the plaque that we did 2 years or so ago for San Juan Bautista. When we did that plaque, we did it solely on our own dime and placed it there in front of the firehouse in San Juan Bautista, completely without any cost to the city. On the second page was proposed verbiage that might go on that plaque and kind of a general outline of how it might look. You kind of have to imagine the line that kind of goes around the whole thing. I can't do that on my computer. I'm not that good of a computer artist. And And actually, these are proposed words. If you guys don't like them or you would like to see something a little different, let's talk about it and we can make it meet whatever you might need to think that it should say. The third and fourth pages are a couple of examples of other plaques and shows how they've been inset. They're on some kind of a concrete base with rocks inset, and the next page shows a concrete base with brick around it. Just shows the plaque being inset in that concrete. If you look at the next page, the proposed location is the new archway that was approved a few weeks ago at this city council meeting. And at the footings for the archway show a concrete base with a rock facade on it. In fact, I talked to the contractor at the end of the meeting where this was approved and asked him if it would be possible for the clampers to for him to install a plaque that the clampers provided in that face of that facade on that archway at no cost. And he said he would be happy to do that. The next page is a list of Hollister's requirements for putting plaques on things. I probably don't need to remind you about that. The page after that shows a couple of plaques that are city dedication type plaques, include the name of the city, little city logo, the names of the city dignitaries, and what have you with a date. Now that would be something that you guys could adjust to some degree. I made a couple of mistakes on that one. I penciled in the city manager. I forgot to include him on the list of dignitaries as required by the ordinance. And the dedication date, I don't know if you guys want to wait until the thing is actually, or the archway is completed to get this plaque. Well, the plaque would have to be installed at the beginning, but it would be dedicated as it's completed. Well, that'd be up to you guys when you want to do it. So I put question marks there for the date. The Hollister, the plaque that the clampers would like to.
Thank you, sir.
Valerie Eglin.
Yes, thank you very much. And yes, good luck, Mr. Roble, on a plaque of dedication for the 150th, I imagine. Let's see, Honorable Hollister City Council. The mission of Reach San Benito Parks Foundation is to support outdoor adventure and health, raise funds, and advocate for more and improved sustainable parks and recreation facilities, bikeways, and trails, programs, and services, ensuring healthy living for all in our San Benito County. On July 21st, 2014, the then Hollister City Council supported a partnership with the Reach San Benito Parks Foundation to create and sustain healthy alternatives for Hollister and the San Benito County residents. Reach San Benito Parks Foundation is asking to present the council with a promotional parks campaign mailer for consideration of funding at your June 6, 2022 meeting. The mailer was designed by Gerardo Martinez with a community impact grant from Community Foundation. The Board of Supervisors has approved the print and mailing costs for the unincorporated area residents. Reach continues to hold a nonprofit status with the USPS that fulfills requirements, which severely reduces the mailing costs down to 11.9 cents each. The exact current number of households has not been established yet. However, in 2018, there were 17,510 within Hollister, and we are aiming for 18,000 with this mailing. The production and mailing cost of the Parks Promotion mailer is a cost-effective 71 cents a piece, delivered to each Hollister City residents for a total of $12,780. Reach will be funding all taxes and extra costs incurred during this extraordinary process undertaken a year and a half ago under duress from COVID disasters of frustrating proportions. The progress of the River Regional Park will be an amazing addition to the Hollister residents, as are the great additions that the city of Hollister has made to their parks, paths, and bikeways. As a team, the whole county will be actively combating gang participation, incentivizing youth and families, opening outdoor respite, and giving people better places to be rather than on the road to somewhere else. As our residents stay close to home on weekends, our overall economy will rise.
Thank you.
I have no more speakers, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. We'll now move to item D1.
I have nothing to report at this time.
Thank you. Item D2.
Nothing to report also.
Thank you. Then we'll now move to item G. Where'd it go? G3? G3.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. Desiree Martinez, Code Enforcement Officer. Today I'll be presenting an informational report on code enforcement's activity for 2001 and 2002. Okay. I can move it now? Okay. Oops. There it goes. Okay. So I'm going to start off with our substandard housing cases. Currently, right now, code enforcement has 32 open substandard cases. What is substandard? Substandard is any building or portion of a dwelling that endangers the life and safety, welfare of public or an occupant. Here is a list of current locations of our substandard cases. And what is substandard? It's any structure that is lack of heating, a lack of cold and hot water, visible mold, and infestation. Those are some examples. This is the continuance of the substandard housing cases. I'm going to show you some examples of some of the properties that we currently have and what we're dealing with as far as substandard. Here's a mold situation that we dealt with. And here's another one that had some unpermitted plumbing, and they had a back out in the back of their house. This is an unpermitted structure of an actual shed that was being rented out to someone. And then here is another case where we had a unit that had a hot plate, and this propane tank was in their shed in the rear of a property, and then to the right is a case of infestation of roaches. Currently, right now, from our substandard, 15 of these properties are owned by property owners, and 17 of them are rental properties. 27 of these property owners live here in Hollister. They're Hollister residents, and 5 of them live out in different cities. Violations that are currently reported and identified in 2001. We had improperly stored materials, 98, trash containers, 60, overgrown landscape, 54, vehicle parked on non-paved, 62, RVs, trailers, and boats, 46, inoperable vehicles, 33, graffiti, 22, and all other violations. All other violations is unpermitted second driveways, illegal fireworks, illegal vendors, illicit discharge. We have a lot of stormwater issues, construction noise, and no garbage service. So that's what was reported in 2021. I'm going to go now with 2022 from current. Grocery carts was a huge issue as of this year. We had 195 grocery carts, 120 trash containers. Overgrown landscape, we had 46. Inoperable vehicles, we have 32. Improperly stored materials, 28. Vehicles parked on non-paved, 22. Graffiti, 18. And then all other, unpermitted second driveways, 13. And then all other violations of 294. Those are current open cases right now in 2022 on top of the 32 substandard cases. If I were to combine most of our common violations for 2021 and 2022, we had a 30% of improperly stored materials. That's garbage, junk, debris, anything that is being left out in the public right away or in their driveway. Our next would be 24% of overgrown landscape. And then vehicles parked on non-pave is 20%. Inoperable vehicles is at 16%, and graffiti is at 10%. Do you have any questions?
Not yet. Go ahead and finish your presentation.
And that's it. Thank you very much.
Wow. I love that. Straight to the point with everything. Is there any questions from council? Go
Mayor,
ahead,
thank you. I'm going to defer. I'd like to reserve my comments until after public comment, please.
sir. Okay. I did want to ask you, substandard living conditions, when you get those, maybe help me understand the law, but doesn't the law say that the owner or the landlord then has to place them in a hotel until the problems are fixed or something?
Yes, if there is a substandard case identified, there is a relocation involved, and relocation fees fall onto the property owner.
And that happens as soon as you address the issue. It's like, hey, this is substandard. Here's
And
your
these-
rights.
Correct.
To a hotel, and the owner now has to pay for it.
Correct.
Good. Really important to me. The other question I had, not a question, I want to say thank you. The grocery carts, you guys have been going around doing a really good job picking them up. I wanted to thank you and everyone else involved in that.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have public comment?
Valerie Eglin.
There. Yes, that's such a wonderful report. I can't believe the success of code enforcement in Hollister. It is so important for a city to have good people going out, making things better. And so it's a very, very difficult job. So I applaud you. I applaud you for that.
Thank you.
It also reflects a lot on our recreation to have code enforcement, because we get graffiti in the parks. There are vagrants in the parks. And I know this is extremely difficult for you to confront people, to bring resources to bear. And yes, I'm glad Mayor Velasquez emphasizes that the property owner should house people who are in such difficult situations. So thank you very much. That's my comment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have no more speakers, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Burns.
Thank you, Mayor. So thanks for the presentation. I believe it is very helpful. I do have a few questions, and I think the pictures speak for themselves. The only thing better would be if they were scratch and sniff, because some of those odors, once you smell them once, you'll never, ever forget them. And so,
No, that would not be better.
well, sometimes
I've smelled some of those, so I know what you're talking about.
I'm sorry for you then.
Yeah.
So some things you just can't unsee or forget. And so, for a second, can we talk a little bit about your grocery cart collection process? And I'd also like to know what type of a vehicle do you actually use, or do you actually physically, or somebody from Public Works, who actually physically picks them up, and what kind of a vehicle? And tell me a little bit about that process, please.
I pick them up and I put them behind my truck. I have a lift gate on it, and I can fit anywhere between 8 and 10 carts. If they're all the same cart, then I can fit 10 carts, and I just go around the city and pick them up. And then, but prior to that process, what we do is we inform the store and let them know that their cart has been out in this location, and we send them either a call, an email, or go by the store and let them know that your cart is located in this location. They have 72 hours according to the state code, which is what we adopted, to pick up their cart. If their cart's not picked up at that time, then we'll go and pick it up.
Okay, and so if they don't pick it up, you collect it, and then do you store it for a period of time, or is it destroyed?
It gets stored at the city public works, and they only stay there for a week or so, I believe, is the longest they keep it. And Henry could confirm that. And then they get rid of them.
So then, do we charge for your time in those cases as well? Is there a fee?
What I do is if they don't pick it up within that 72 hours, we'll send out a $50 citation. And we just started that. We wanted to give the stores an opportunity to educate them and to let them know that we're doing this. But because the cart increase has gotten out of control in these last few months, we have started now to proactively issue citations.
Okay. And how did you arrive at the $50 fee?
That was a code that was put back in 2000. I'm looking for Brett. Was it? I don't remember when it was.
Okay. I won't press it. Where, Brett, can you tell me, are the code fees, are they part of the building fee schedule?
I believe the both fire and code were left out of the Wildan study, so we're looking to
Okay.
have them updated. And then also for the shopping cart, code is actually also looking at maybe possibly updating the shopping cart ordinance, just because it's been getting so rampant with them just being around all of a sudden.
Right. And my understanding is the average shopping cart can cost anywhere from $400 to $700. And so the ideal situation would be for them to police their own carts, or maybe us to outsource it to a collection business. I know there's some of those that are possible as well. But again, I think $50, it's a token gesture, and we need to charge a fair market rate for those things, because otherwise, and I would say we charge them regardless of whether they pick the cart up or not, after a period of time. And again, I think that's where a fee study would be very helpful to quantify what the standard is within your industry. And so I'm very encouraged to hear that you actually have a lift on the back of the truck. I'm aware of people that cart weights are not displaced equally, and we don't need a back injury. A shopping cart's a shopping cart's a shopping cart, but it's not worth anybody getting hurt over. And so let me move on. I have a couple other questions. On an annual basis, what are the total number of code cases that you or code enforcement will actually receive in an annual year?
Are you talking about all municipal code?
Across the board, yes. So in a year, my jurisdiction where I work, we will get no less than 15,000 complaints a year.
So in 2021, we had over, I think it was 1,700. But during COVID, we had close to 3,000.
Okay. People at home, people have time. And so how many staff are there currently in code enforcement?
There's myself and admin support.
Okay, and how much admin support?
I'm not following the question. Just
She has-
one.
She has one.
I just have one.
One full-time
Yes.
clerical person?
Yes.
Okay, and so does that person do a lot of the administrative paperwork associated with the job that you do? I presume you go out and do the inspections, the enforcement piece.
Yes. So the calls will come in and she'll track, and then she'll put together a tracking log list, and then I'll head out and inspect the properties and give. It's kind of like a back and forth. She'll give me a call while I'm out there, but she does all the paper processing as far as sending them in the mail and making the calls back that we're heading out there. She does a lot of the paperwork.
Okay, and so that's very helpful. And so during a year, if you receive 1,800 complaints in a year, how many of those 1,800 would you routinely close? What would your closure rate be on an annual basis?
I would say about maybe half, but then they would come back.
Okay.
Like one of the cases we've had, or a few of them, the case closed and then they did it again. So they would come right back and go back to doing what they were doing as far as renting out illegal sheds in the rear, Some of the property owners are reoccurring violators.
Okay. And so do you have the authority to issue an administrative citation, correct?
Yes.
And what's the initial cost of an administrative citation?
We start off at $250, and
Okay.
it can go to all the way up from $500, $750 to $1,000.
Okay. Well, I'm encouraged to hear that because if nothing else, I think people understand the universal language of money. And so sometimes, they're going to want to buy their way out, or they're just going to want to try and ignore you. And so with regard, do you also charge for your time, your physical time?
No.
Okay. Brett, I would absolutely recommend that. Every jurisdiction I've worked at in code, when I was with Monterey County, we billed out for your time, our inspector's time, at $180 per hour, or $45 for a 15-minute piece of your time. And so the combination of administrative fees and fines, if people are late in paying, and penalties and citations, usually that will focus and get people's cooperation a little bit earlier. And at the end of the day, I assume your primary goal is to gain voluntary compliance?
Correct.
Okay. And so it's really important that we have a process in place that will encourage people to cooperate. And sometimes people may just choose to ignore you, and there's a consequence for that as well. So now when a property has been brought into compliance and there are fees associated that aren't paid, what is your process then?
So our process is we would take them to court and get a judgment against the property. And that's kind of where it just stayed.
Okay. All right. And again, Brett, I think I'm feeling like a know-it-all, but I'm old and I've been there and I've done that. But again, it would be helpful to maybe have a consulting firm come in. I'm always willing to volunteer my time as a council member to assist in this process. But when somebody doesn't pay, do you put a lien on the property or a liens pendency or a title cloud?
We have that capability, yes.
But do you?
No.
No. Okay. So again, that's part of a due process. And so if you don't do that and I buy a property and there are violations, how am I to know except if it's obvious? I mean, obviously I'm going to know these things just because of my experience, but the average citizen won't know that. So how would they know?
They don't. We send them a notice letting them know they're still past due and they haven't paid, and sometimes they just get up, go sell, and we lose it.
Right. So again, I think there's first of all, I think you do an amazing job with the limited resources you have, but I think there's really an opportunity to improve, and I think it's critical as we build out as a city because there are only going to become more issues. And again, I think the timing for this is a really good presentation with us going into budget discussions as well to ensure that you have all the processes, you have all the tools you need, because you can only beg and plead and ask so many times, and I'm a guy, I'll ask please, pretty please with the cherry on top, and then I'm going to hammer you. And so you need the tools in your toolbox though. So do you have...
Real quick, Councilmember Brown.
Yes, of course.
I mean, Desiree's correct that they haven't liened the property, but we did contract on I believe that was the last council meeting, with a service that will go back and pick those up to collect on those fees, and then also included to put a lien on those properties. So we are moving forward with that.
Right, because sometimes people aren't going to pay no matter what you do.
Right.
And that's a good option in my opinion, but at the end of the day, the solution is to lien the property because you cloud the title, you put a lien on it. At some point, that money is going to come back to you. My jurisdiction just recently clouded $2 million in properties. And so it may take us 4, 5, 6, 7 years to get that money back. At some point, that money will come back, or we will settle a deal for less. But otherwise, they're just going to continue to flip. And so it's really about the standards within the industry, and that's relatively consistent everywhere I've worked, and unfortunately, I've worked many places. I would like to also suggest, based on what I've seen and heard from you, and this is really a process that I would like, and I'd hope that the council as a whole would support. I would really like to see your efforts, whether you're in planning and development or in the police department moving forward, to focus on life safety issues and blight issues. There's way too many things. You know that you can't drive a block and not see a handful of violations, and it will make you cuckoo, and you're going to get tied up or wrapped around the axle on things. And just hearing your comments about substandard housing, that really, in my opinion, needs to be our number one priority. And so if you focus on that, and there's only one or maybe two or three of you, at some point I think, and Chief, I would say this as well, as your code enforcement builds out, if you need more, know that you have my support, and there's a lot of opportunity to really make this a very well and safe community. And code enforcement, you're not necessarily a first responder, but you can almost accidentally be one, or you can be a second responder for sure. And so, and then blight. A lot of blight, given enough time, will self-correct, but we would like to be proactive in that regard. And usually those require easy fixes. People parking on their front lawn, most people don't even have a clue that that's not okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and then I guess my final comment would be, well, actually I have two comments. I would like to really see code enforcement by person and follow-up in mail versus just getting a letter and you open it and it's like, oh my gosh, I've got a compliance order. And sometimes it's a human tendency to want to do that, but in addition to that, most codes are either written by planners or attorneys, so they're written in legalese and plannerese, and most of us, unless we're in the profession, can't know what that means. And so really, to engage people, I think, is a very good thing. I have heard some complaints. Apparently there was a period of time when we've recently outsourced code enforcement for a, I don't know, 3, 4, 5, 6 months period of time to 4-leaf. And I don't want to get into that, but I think that's a last alternative in my mind. And for somebody to come in and just go crazy and then be able to leave and us have to pick up the pieces, not a good thing. And so it again comes down to the number of bodies that we have doing the jobs and having them be well-trained and doing a really good job. And so my last concern is again about the substandard housing. And as the mayor brought up, we do have a relocation ordinance.
Yes.
Do you know about how many times we've actually had to use that ordinance in the last couple of years?
I'd say about 20 times.
Oh my
For the
gosh.
most part, I can get the property owner to put them in a hotel until the property gets cleaned up. And if not, then it mostly happens for when I find several structures in the rear of a property is when we're doing those relocation.
Right.
If it's one person in a house, they intend to put him in a hotel.
Okay, and so you're amazing, because that tells me you have the ability to engage with people and negotiate and mediate things. So thank you for doing that. Can you talk to me a little bit about the trigger that brought this to my attention was the text we got on, I don't remember, some alley where there was, I don't know, 11 people in a fire. And can you talk a little bit more about that? Because that's real and people could die in that. And fortunately, you guys, as I understand it, police, code, and fire do an amazing job, and building to a certain degree as well, being a partnership. Can you speak about that specific incident, please?
That was actually a case that I had back in 2015 where I had identified 27 people renting sheds in the rear of that property, and there was 12 in the garage. The property owner had to relocate everyone and demo all the sheds in the rear of the property and clean up the property. It was closed, everything got taken care of, and then the individual did it again, and that's when the structure fire happened. They had electrical connected, and when I went back there, they had the electrical from the main structure to the rear to the garage. It was just extension cord after extension cord. So those are the cases where what we've decided after this one is just to do routine inspections and follow up that they're not doing them again. So they're on our calendar as a 6-month. Unfortunately, it has to be like that, because if you wait any longer, they just continue to build.
Thanks. Again, I think that's an area where you could work with city legal to enter into some sort of a stipulated agreement. And there has to be a cost for this, because people are greedy by nature, And we live in a I want it now mindset. And if there's not a consequence, then they're going to, we're all creatures of habit, and we're going to regress back to that. And so I think there's a real opportunity here to really address those things. Most people in Hollister would not even have a clue that that exists. And in most cases, that's exploiting our members of our community as well. I mean, I've personally been in a garage in Hollister 20 years ago where it was not converted, and there were 10 sets of bunk beds, and each person living in that house, in that garage, was paying $200 or $300 a month. Do the math. It's all cash. It's just a mess, and it could be, it could be our little mini version of the ghost ship out of Oakland if we were not careful.
Mhm.
And so we really, really need to deal with that. I mean, that alleyway property could have been just a disaster, and I don't want to be in the news for the wrong reasons. And so know that as you move forward with code enforcement and planning and development and in the PD in the future, you have my 100% support, and whatever I can do to help you. Again, you're amazing. Thank you for your service to our community. I appreciate your comments.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, what he said. But no, thank you. First and foremost, thank you, because I know that is a tough job.
Thank you.
And my questions, too, are very similar, and I don't want to take up time asking the same question. So, the canal, I was there, seen it, and I'm glad that you're doing 6-month follow-ups, because when I seen that tag, it was like, really? It's like, I mean, we can't be there all the time, but 6-month checkup is good. I really appreciate that, because there was 15 people displaced there, and thank God nobody was hurt. But with that, so the 6-month would help fix that problem. And you work closely with the fire inspectors, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. And I mean, if we're gonna do these 6-month checkups with all the calls that you're getting too, and you're already short-staffed, is the fire department willing to maybe, can you guys help out more with the fire inspections to, reducing risk? That's the answer. Being proactive. All this reactive stuff, we count bodies, and that's not what we want to do, and injuries.
Absolutely.
And you know what? The other thing is the dollar amount on these property values and the inconvenience to the people.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it always adds to our housing problem, where we need more affordable housing. So then what do you suggest?
Absolutely. So what we're working on right now is a community risk reduction program where, as opposed to the old fire prevention methodology where we're addressing the issues as a reactionary component, what we want to do is go forward along with code enforcement and building and find these discrepancies in home living, mainly businesses. All of the businesses that we had downtown that caught fire could have been prevented if we had a comprehensive inspection program, for the exception of the 2 arsons that we had, that we couldn't prevent. That right there was going to happen. But those that were preventable, that was millions of dollars that we could have prevented and saved in property. So when we fight a structure fire, we're not only saving the property or the property loss of the building, but the existing buildings around it, the exposures around it. So if we say we're saving, $1 million worth of a business, you've got 3 exposures all the way around it. So that's, potentially up to $3 to $4 million. That's the kind of mitigating factor that we need to address. We're slightly short-staffed right now with just 1 fire prevention officer, but we're getting there with heads up from code enforcement, and even if the police department sees it and gives us a head up, we're out there to try to address these issues.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, prevention is the answer. And thank you, Desiree, for that.
Thank you.
And with that policy or checking into those carts, what about just getting them to go with those magnetic wheels where they lock up?
Do you want me to go?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so we're currently rewriting that code, and we're working on that, and we're looking into adding it to our cart containment plan of putting the requirement of the lock wheels. So it's something we're currently working on right now.
That's all I have. Thank you again for what you do.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now move to item K1.
Yes, please allow me just 1 minute to adjust. 1 second, please. Thank you, Council, for waiting. I apologize. I have a newborn, and so this is typically bedtime, and so we're adjusting right now. So I appreciate your patience, given the different timing of things. But tonight before you, I am bringing forward, again, the Low Moderate Income Housing Asset Fund Report. I presented on May 2nd. And at the meeting, the council had requested to have a little bit more of an involved discussion of the redevelopment agency, the history, activity, and future uses. As stated in the agenda packet, the redevelopment agency was continually funded through tax increment financing, which basically captured the increase in property taxes resulting from new development. So city designated a geographic area to be redeveloped, which with the city of Hollister, we had a defined redevelopment project area. When that redevelopment happened, property values go up, and therefore property taxes would then be higher at that time. So when this happens, the property tax will be broken into 2 streams. And if you see in the report as well, we talk about the base value. And so at that time, with the changes in the past with redevelopment agency, the base value or the old property tax value would go to schools, roads, parks, police, etc. But then the increase of the property taxes would then be designated to these redevelopment agencies. Unfortunately, like noted before, in the 2011 budget, the governor had ended redevelopment agencies. So now with the city of Hollister, we process and we are the successor agency. So that's why you'll see now that it's titled the Housing Successor Agency to the former redevelopment agency. And so at this time, I know you guys may have had some questions on how redevelopment agencies worked prior to accepting the report. And I just wanted to see if you had any questions at this time.
Any questions from council? Did you have a question? No. Did we have any speaker cards on this? Okay. Well, thank you very much for the update.
I believe she needs you to approve the
annual thing.
Annual report.
That's on a just on a consensus and not on a vote, correct? It's just accepting the annual report.
Yeah, just a consensus accepting it.
All right. Is there a consensus?
Yes.
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 Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to move back to item E1, public hearing.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. Item E1 is an ordinance of the City of Hollister adding a new chapter 2.50 to the City of Hollister Municipal Code regarding police acquisition and use of military equipment. This is the request to consider adding a new ordinance for that purpose. Recommendation from staff is to hold a public hearing, waive full reading, read by title only, and introduce the ordinance of the City of Hollister adding chapter 2.50 to the City of Hollister Municipal Code regarding police acquisition and use of military equipment. You have any questions?
Any questions? Is there any questions from council? None? Do we have any speaker cards?
We have no speaker cards, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Is there, at this point, I'll open up the public hearing. Do we have any speakers?
We have no speakers, Mr. Mayor.
This time we will close public hearing. Is there a motion?
Mayor, I do have a couple
Yeah,
questions,
go ahead,
please.
sir.
Thank you. Chief, in regards to the ordinance itself, in 2.50.060, there's a reference to a $15,000 limit, and I'm curious if there was a rationale or how we came to the $15,000 number in that case.
That amount is stipulated in Assembly Bill 481. It's a requirement by the state to have that, and it's a warning to the communities who don't adhere to this new regulation. And upon 90 days if we're notified of something that we've done wrong or not reported, we have 90 days to correct it. If that doesn't happen, then the $15,000 amount comes into play.
Okay, so that's established by the state then. It's not something that we arbitrarily pick $15,000 number.
That is correct. The majority of what you see before you is basically a boilerplate of what the recommendations from Lexipol and from the other agencies in our state to adhere to Assembly Bill 481.
Okay, thank you, Chief. My other question was, it made reference to a date where I want to say it was like May 2nd or May 3rd in the document, and knowing we've gone beyond that, does this need to be updated in any way or form?
No, there was a requirement to have it done by May 2nd.
Okay.
And that in itself, there's no penalty associated with that. It was a recommendation from the state. We did go through some delays waiting for Lexipol to give us the best practices. And there are some other cities that did have their own versions of that, but we didn't want to venture without the best practices of our policy in place.
Thank you, Chief. Those conclude my questions, Mayor.
Thank you. All right, this time is there a motion?
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Aye. Motion carries. We'll now move to item E2.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, item E2 is an ordinance of the City of Hollister amending the fireworks ordinance to include liability of property owners and fines. This amendment the amendment is for section 8.08 of their existing fireworks ordinance. The recommendation is to hold public hearing, read by title only, waive full reading, and introduce an ordinance of the City of Hollister amending Chapter 8.08 fireworks, adding clarification of property owners' liability and fines. This ordinance is not changing anything. It just maybe more clearly establishing that property owners are ultimately responsible for any violations of the fireworks ordinance that happens on their property. I do need to add that I think conversation we had, Mr. Mayor, the fines associated here might be above our limits. So if we pass this, I think that needs to be addressed. It has 1,000 to 2,000 and 5,000 for the third, and that might be beyond our limits. I was speaking with our city attorney.
As a general law city, if we're a charter city, we could be doing that, but as a general law, we're limited to $1,000 max fine.
I think amendment should be made that since 1,000 is the maximum, they would just be $1,000 for each offense, as opposed to a second, third, and a second and third offense after that.
Thank you, sir. Is there any questions from council?
Mayor?
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Chief, with regard, I've read the ordinance, the proposed ordinance, and there's reference to when contact can't necessarily be made, that a citation will be issued and it will be mailed to the address of the house. Is that correct?
That is in the wording as an option.
Right, and so with that, I would just like to recommend, and I may be being too technical, but I don't know if you're talking about a traditional mailing or a registered letter, but I would recommend that it be registered, yes, if that's not clear. And I'd also recommend that, and maybe this is a process or procedure, not a policy or an ordinance piece of it, but that again, when you mail that notice, you need to confirm where the actual property owner lives, because if it's a rental property, there was a period of time when I lived in Visalia, and we rented our home here in Hollister, and if he would have sent it to me here, unless the tenant would have forwarded it to me, I would have never gotten it. And so I think it's really important to know who owns the property, and there are programs out there that you can do it, or you can do it through the APM through the county as well, to do that. And so I think that's an important piece of it as well. And then I see where there's a reference to turning it over to a collection company.
Yes.
And I would also, again, as we talked about code enforcement a little earlier, I would like to see where when people don't follow through and take care of their financial obligations, that the title is clouded or a lens pendency is placed on it, and ultimately the property is liened.
Yes.
And we need to get really aggressive in this. And my final question or thought is, I know that we're going to be talking about fireworks booths, and that's part of that, but at some point, I would like to see an element in all of these ordinances that relate to fireworks, and this could be definitely a piece of that, where maybe we outlaw fireworks for a high fire year. And I know that's not going to be popular, but all we got to do is lose one house, or somebody dies or is seriously injured, and we'll be having to address it after the fact. So I don't know how we work that into it, and I don't even know as a general law city if there's even a possibility, but it's definitely on my radar, and I would also like to hear what the fire department's thoughts are in regards to that after you comment, sir.
Yes, I think we've had 2 of the 3 that you mentioned. And we've had homes burned because of fireworks, and we have had people injured seriously because of fireworks. Luckily, no one has died, but 2 of the 3 have already been there. So I think it has been a discussion by the fire chief. So,
thank you, Chief.
Man, am I glad you brought that up, sir. So, yes, in 2017, we looked at making fireworks illegal, the safe and sane and the illegal ones. And what had happened was it wasn't a popular consensus among the board, among the council. So we left it as is. The reason I had brought it to the council was the fact that we had safe and sane fireworks that caused 2 structure fires at the same time, and one of them caused as much as $650,000 worth of damage of a custom home with the safe and sane fireworks. So that was the year we were trying to push it. It was just after Salinas had pushed theirs, and it got passed. But if you're paying attention to the newspaper, that got turned over, and now it's back again. So we do got to have a comprehensive method, and I think if we do have a drought year and a high or a low fuel moisture for fuel, we could probably declare a threat to public safety, and then just not have it for that year. I would like to see that, absolutely.
I would agree. Thank you, Chief, for your thoughts and comments.
Councilmember Burns, may I add, I know this ordinance, I just recently was looking at it, and I believe currently written into the ordinance, if a permit isn't issued 1 year, I think they lose their permit, so we might have to look at changing that before we do anything else, because then we would have no returning booths the next year.
And I have that interest and concern as well. And we're already in May. I don't know that we could get to this point during this cycle, but certainly, hopefully we can figure out if there's a better way, a stronger path for next year. I just don't want to see somebody unnecessarily hurt or property damage done. I mean, if it's predictable, it's preventable, and we're in a drought. So thank you for your comments, City Clerk.
Thank you. Chief, as we talked about, the $1,000 fine is the max, but that does not mean you can't charge other fees to recoup costs. So the fine is limited to $1,000, but your cost, that's a separate issue.
yes, I think we'll look into assessing hourly fee, a set rate,
Right.
as mentioned earlier,
Right.
and then we can include that as well.
And one of the things I think, and we had this conversation, is the reward system we have out there for those that are willing to say, hey, look, my neighbors are firing these off. I've had it, and report that. And there's a reward. We talked about it 1 year. I think we really have to go back to that, somehow get back to a program especially today with technologies that are out there, the recorders on the doorbells, recorders on the back, wireless and so on, that we could probably figure out a way to allow people to report it without really having to be going over to their neighbors and having a screaming match about it. But this has just got to come to an end. The conversation, unfortunately, about the fireworks, trying to make them, not to have them, we learned from Salinas when they did it, that the firework company just came back, put it onto the ballot, and it passed overwhelmingly to bring them back, creating a bigger problem for them. So I think we just have to think this thing through, how we can do it. And really, our biggest problem, of course, there are some safe and sane issues, but the biggest problem is people just bringing those illegal fireworks. And I thought I remembered perhaps you saying that transporting the fireworks over state lines is a whole nother issue, fee-wise or fine-wise. So that's something we should be looking at, because that is what's happening.
Right.
It's coming straight over from Nevada to here, so it's illegal in itself, and that's a much higher fine. If it's not a felony, it sure is a misdemeanor, that we can incorporate those fees on top of the $1,000 fee.
If that can be proved, it would be, prosecuted felonies in that situation, but you have to be able to prove that they actually transported it.
I've just put ideas out there for you to maximize the input we're having. I think I see Charlie. Go ahead, sir.
Sorry, I just wanted to add that the State Fire Marshal has a task force that's waiting there at the border, and they hit it really hard for the upcoming months to hit those people that are legally bringing those over. So there's a big part on that also that happens.
Yeah. It's quite amazing. Is there any other comments from council members? If not, this time we will open public hearing. Do we have any speakers? We have no speakers. This time we will close public hearing. Any other questions or comments from council? I think one of the recommendations you made, if we make a motion
to amend the fines.
Amend the fine to use $1,000.
$1,000 for each offense, as opposed to first, second, and third.
And the recovery cost, I think you're working on that, or do you
We'll
want
be working on it. We have to establish an actual fee, and we can make that part of our regular.
bring that back later, or
Yes.
do you want that tonight? How do we do that, sir?
I'm sorry, I was actually trying to address a different issue with someone else. Can you repeat the question?
It's the recovery part of this. We know we can fine up to $1,000, but the recovery costs for their time, would that have to be in this?
I would suggest that in order to get this passed, we proceed with this and we bring that issue back as an amendment at another time, not necessarily as a part of this particular ordinance. That's a significant change, and I think it would restart the process.
Okay, so, but the adjustment of the $1,000 fine we could do tonight?
That's fine.
Okay, thank you.
And just for the record, I believe that's section 8.08.040C.
Thank you. That being said, is there a motion?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion and hold a public hearing, read by title only, waive full reading, and introduce an ordinance of the City of Hollister amending Chapter 8.08 fireworks, adding clarification of the property owner's liability and progressive fines.
Up to $1,000?
Up to $1,000.
And may I interrupt? I'm sorry, before there's a second. I would just ask Councilmember Resendez, the best option, since you were not here for the entire discussion, is for you to abstain from this particular vote. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you. There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
And just for the record, I'm abstaining.
Your what?
I'm abstaining.
Item E3.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. Before you tonight is ordinance number 1210, an ordinance of the City of Hollister amending the Hollister Municipal Code, Chapter 2, Section 2.04.320, salary, increasing the salary of each council member of the City Council from $400 to $800 per month. Staff recommends that you read by title only, waive full reading, and introduce an ordinance amending Municipal Code Chapter 2, Section .320 salary, changing the city council salary from $400 to $800.
Thank you. Is there any questions from council? Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. So I do have just a few questions. We're talking of raising the salary, and currently as a council member, Mr. Miller or our presenter, please clarify it for me. Council members currently make $400 a month. Is that correct?
Correct.
And the mayor makes $600 a month, correct?
Correct.
So we're proposing to raise the salary of council, which the mayor is part of, to $800 a month, correct?
Correct, but the mayor would still get $200 additional.
Okay, I just want to be clear because I didn't want the mayor to be discounted in what his work is and what he's paid. And so, also, I'm curious, can this be, if the council was so inclined, could this be retroactive to January 1 of 2022?
No, it has to always move forward.
Okay, all right. And then with regard, I know this talks about salary only, and I've read that council members also get benefits from varying degrees based on personal decisions that were made. And so I'm not looking to adjust that, but I think out of transparency, it would be helpful to know what total compensation would then be for each council member based on the choices they've made. And the thing that I read an article, and I found it really interesting. I didn't know this, but I believe it when I read it, but I want to confirm it, that if a council member serves 5 or more years and they're not currently a PERS retiree, they are then vested and receive a retirement as well?
That is correct.
Okay, and so again, I think that would be helpful to know. In my case, I am a PERS retiree, so it doesn't apply to me. But one of the reasons we have chosen to move forward to raise salaries is because they have not been raised in 20 years, as I understand it.
You are correct.
And in addition to that, part of my interest is to try and attract people that are interested that $800 a month is still not going to necessarily make people whole based on the work that they do as a council member. And I really don't believe people get into being an elected official for the compensation. But I do think it will enhance the pool of candidates. And there have been times where council members have run unopposed. Am I correct in that?
Yeah.
Not recently, but in
not
the-
recently.
not
times maybe.
maybe.
Okay, so I would like to hope that in those cases, they were just so amazing that nobody, or you know, maybe they just weren't motivated to run. But I'm hoping that this will be a tool to incentivize people that have an interest in public service at this level versus other levels to get involved. And so I'm 100% in support. Thank you for the answers. I appreciate that. And I will yield my time. Thank you.
I can confirm city treasurer usually runs unopposed.
Correct. And Mayor, for the retirement part, so if somebody gets, makes $10,000 over the year, if they've been on the council for 5 years, under the new retirement system, they would get 2% times the number of years, that'd be 5, so they get 10% of their annual salary. Once they reach 62, so they'd be getting like $1,000 a year. So
Yeah, I want to make sure people understood that just because the word retirement goes out there doesn't mean
right. It's
we go off and make $60,000, $80,000 in retirement. Lucky to get a $500,000 retirement.
You'll
fund
be able
a
to buy
year.
yourself dinner maybe a month.
if we're lucky. I got to say, I understand the comments that were made. I understand the effort. I just personally can't, support this. I think when you do run for city council, you're running to really help your community. I think it's there are benefits, as was pointed out. I mean, the health benefits help offset some of the time we spend. We spend a lot of time as council members. And I think that's fair enough. you know, I know sometimes, as just mentioned, or the city manager mentioned, that sometimes people think we're here at city council making $100,000 a year. The big joke is basically any money we do get, we have to pay back to pay for our health insurance anyway. So, at the end of the day, so I'm fine where it's at now. Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Go ahead, Councilmember Resendez.
And I think I said this before, and I'll just say it again too. I actually pay to be on the council when I have benefits. I have to write a check to be on here, and I just want the public to know that. I don't think it's a good idea to give ourselves a raise, not now, especially during these times when we might be headed towards a recession, there's a pandemic. I didn't agree with the county supervisors when they did that, which was significantly higher. And that does worry me, but I think that's a whole other conversation. But I am not necessarily in support of this. I don't know if it's going to make a lot of a difference. And so we're looking at the percent. And when people hear about this, it sounds like a lot, right? It sounds like a lot. And I think they just don't know. But I don't think it's a good idea to give ourselves a raise. Not now, especially. So those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, this time we will open it for public hearing. Do we have any speakers?
I have no speakers, Mr. Mayor.
This time we will close public hearing. Is there a motion?
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Aye.
Aye.
This brings it back to the days when we had 4 council members. So because it's a 2-2 tie, it would automatically come to the next council meeting. Just
Thank you very much. We'll now move to item E4.
Good evening, Council. Maria Mendez, Cannabis Affairs Manager. The item before you tonight is a cannabis use permit for Good Crops located at 2000 Lana Way. The applicant is requesting an approval from the City of Hollister of a cannabis use permit number 2022-1 to operate a cannabis cultivation facility, again out of 2000 Lana Way. It's located in the light industrial M1 zoning district, further identified as San Benito County Assessor's Parcel number 051-161-001, and under CEQA would be categorically exempt under existing facilities. The site of the proposed facility is an existing approximately 1.5 acre parcel. It's located at the intersection of Fallon Road and Lana Way, east of the airport in the northern end of the city. Access to the site is provided via Fallon Road, which is off of Highway 25. The parcel is located in the industrial park setting, surrounded by similar sized parcels. The developed project site, which is surrounded again by airport support and all industrial uses, contains a 28,800 square foot warehouse type building. The proposed project entails the establishment of a commercial cannabis facility to include both cultivation and nursery. The City of Hollister Municipal Code requires a cannabis facility to be located at least 600 feet from any school and a minimum of 150-foot required distance from a conforming residential use, a religious institution, or a licensed rehabilitation facility. The proposed business site is not within 600 feet of any school, residential, or religious institution, or rehab facility. If it's the desire of the council tonight to approve the cannabis use permit, the approval will allow the applicant to commence operations contingent upon all conditions of approval being made. And with that, tonight, staff is approving that the City Council approve cannabis use permit 2022-1 to allow Good Crops to conduct operations out of 2000 Lana Way for cultivation and nursery, and approve resolution 2022-90. And I'm here to answer any project-specific questions. And I believe a representative of the applicant is also available online. if
Thank
there
you.
are
Is there any
additional
questions from council? Councilmember Burns, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks for the presentation. Do we have an intended start date when they would absolutely, or would be on target to be operational, functional?
It would have been May, but everything got delayed. So the applicant has been working on tenant improvements with the building department, so there's been plans submitted. So basically, this would put the applicant on track. They indicated about 4 months.
Okay, so definitely by next calendar year?
Oh, I'm sure before that, yeah.
Okay, and were you able to calculate the financial benefit to the city to allow this operation to move forward?
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, how much money are they going to pay us every year to run their business, taxes and regulation fees?
So it would be based on their canopy, and the square footage fee is $7. So it just depends on the grow rooms and how much flower they get.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
Chief, do you have any thoughts or comments that are relevant?
Thank you. I think that as long as it's within compliance of the established city ordinances that the council has passed, and it seems to be all in accordance with that. It is an industrial area. I know that there's some churches down the street, but I think they're sufficient distance away. It's a better location for something like this, and it's not that far away from other establishments that are similar to this.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions? This time we'll open up for public comment.
I have no speakers, Mr. Mayor.
This time we will close the public hearing. Is there a motion?
So moved.
You want to read
Okay. I'm
that off?
all right. I'm qualified.
Because I think there's two items in here I thought I heard
Okay.
you say.
All right. So we will consider conditionally approving the cannabis use permit development agreement, CUP dash or slash DA 2022-01 for Good Crops LLC to operate a cannabis cultivation facility. So staff recommends the City Council hold a public hearing and adopt a resolution approving the cannabis conditional use permit development agreement, CUP IDA 2022-01 for Good Crops LLC.
Thank you, sir. The motion is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
We'll now move to item F1.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Members of the City Council, before you is Resolution 2022-91. Resolution of the City Council of the City of Hollister authorizing the city manager to sign a renewal contract with dispatching services with Santa Cruz 911. Recommendation from staff is the City Council of the City of Hollister adopt this resolution and authorize the city manager to sign the renewal contract for services for Santa Cruz 911. You have any questions?
Any questions from council? Do we have any speaker cards?
I have no speakers, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Aye. Motion carries. We'll now move to item F2.
Thank you. That's myself again, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Resolution 2022-92, resolution of the City Council of the City of Hollister authorizing the release of requests for proposal to consulting firms, consultants to prepare a feasibility study of the City of Hollister to create its own dispatch live information center. Staff recommends that the City Council adopt a resolution authorizing the staff to release a request of proposal to consultant firms or / consultant to provide feasibility study for the city to create its own dispatch. As you're aware, we have an ad hoc committee that has met, and we've talked about the cost of contracting with Santa Cruz 911 and the possibility of having our own dispatch center. We've since then have looked into having a live, some places call it live crime center, and mostly larger cities have these live crime centers, but it's unique that Hollister has all the cameras that we do. And City of Modesto is going into the process of combining their dispatch center with their live crime center. We recently attended a symposium in Sacramento specifically about live crime centers and the benefits of having dispatch along with the cameras that are viewing live what's happening in their city. So that's been added to this recommendation to see if there's the feasibility for someone to come forward and present to the City Council the possibility and the costs associated with having our own dispatch/live crime center.
Great. Any questions? Do we have any speaker cards?
I have no speakers, Mr. Mayor.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Motion carries. We'll now
Thank you.
move to item F3.
Good evening, Mayor Velasquez, City Council members, Tina Garza, Recreation Services Manager. Before you is resolution number 2022-93, and this is a resolution to accept the amended contract for professional services agreement with Brightview Landscaping Services to include additional sound wall zones and the city's retention ponds, basins, and planter strips. We had the agreement that started March 1st, and staff met, and we went over some areas that we weren't included in the original RFP. So we included it in the amended contract for Brightview, and then additional sound wall zones that either the city accepted recently from development, and we also included the basins and planter strips. Are there any questions?
Any questions, council? Go ahead, sir.
Just more of a comment. I've been hearing really good things when I'm out there talking to the constituents about the services that are being provided. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any speaker cards?
We have no speakers, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
The motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Aye. Motion carries. We'll move to item F4.
The resolution before you is number 2022-94, and this is to accept amended contract for professional services agreement with Smith and Enright Landscaping, and this includes additional sound wall zones, a few parks, and and again the city's retention ponds, basins, and planter strips.
Thank you. Is there any questions? Councilmember Burns?
Thank you, Mayor. In reviewing this document, I see where they're asking for more money to do some routine maintenance at Clower Park. Can you tell me what that maintenance actually is, please?
In the original RFP, we only had the area up to where that basin is, but later we found out through our staff meetings that behind that to the west of the park, the city owns that property also, so we needed to maintain that.
Okay. Do they currently, or are they, as part of this, going to mow the inner perimeter of the lawn that there's currently the fence around that we've talked about reducing in size?
Yes, that's currently in their contract, and they've been maintaining that area right there.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Any other questions? Do we have any speaker cards?
I have no speakers, Mr. Mayor.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Motion carries. Move to item F5.
I'm still here.
Gonna be there live.
This resolution before you is resolution number 2022-95, and this is a street closure for our City of Hollister's 150th anniversary to be held on Saturday, June 9th. And this is in partnership with the Hollister Downtown Association, the YMCA, Youth Alliance, and San Benito County Arts Council.
All right. Any questions from council? Do we have any speaker cards?
I have no speakers, Mr. Mayor.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion. Is there a second?
Real quick.
Yes.
The chamber's involved in this too also, aren't they? Are they not?
The chamber is involved on another day, but this one is
Oh,
for
this is for
July
that day.
9th.
Okay.
This is where we're going to have our art and culture festival, fair, I think we're going to call it that. And we'll celebrate arts and culture within the city of Hollister.
Okay, my bad.
There's a second now. Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Aye, motion carries. We'll move to item F6.
And this is a resolution before you, 2022-96, for a street closure to be held on July 30th. And this is a beautification section with the Hollister Litter Project in the morning time. And then in the evening time, we'll continue and have the roads closed for the city recreation's family fun night event, similar to what we did last summer.
Thank you. Any questions, council?
Mayor?
Sir?
Thanks. It's actually a process question. I'm wondering why items like this could not typically be on the consent agenda. I thought I've seen that in the past, and I'm just wondering, you're getting a lot of great practice, and I appreciate it, but in my mind, these are just, I don't want to say no-brainers, but no-brainers.
Okay, we were debating about, kind of back up, council gave me authorization and I can shut down downtown when I feel it's appropriate. The main reason this is on there is to advertise these events.
Ah. Just a public.
So it was a discussion. Do you want to advertise these or do you want them on consent agenda? So
Okay.
we did go through that process.
Okay, now I get you. Thank you.
Go ahead, sir.
Just, I don't know how effective it's going to be to advertise it here at the meeting. I think you guys do a really good job of advertising on social media, and I tend to agree with Councilmember Burns, and if you have the authority to do it, I'd rather have you do it, and if you want to share us digital flyers, but I don't know how effective it is going to be to do that at this venue.
I will say I don't like to abuse the power, so I do like having council's approval. It's more for depending on what could happen downtown is when I would do it.
So what is this about? What's the street closure about?
Our celebration for our city's 150th anniversary.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay. Do we have any speaker cards?
I have no speakers, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
There's a motion and a second. All in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Motion carries. Move to item F7.
F7 is Resolution 2022-97 with temporary street closure at McCarthy Street Park for the City of Hollister's Recreation Concert in the Park series to be held on Thursday, August 25th, Thursday, September 1st, Thursday, September 8th, and Thursday, September 16th.
Okay, we really need you to sell it more. You're going to advertise it, okay? Just
I feel like I'm just going to. I know.
This is also to remind all five. There's 4 of you right now, but I'll say 5 to use your social media also to get this word out.
Please.
Any questions from council?
I have no speakers.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Motion carries. We'll go to item F8.
F8. This is resolution number 2022-98 and our annual Movies Under the Stars event to be held on Friday, June 17th, July 15th, and August 12th. Do you guys want to know what shows we're playing?
Yes, absolutely.
Luca is one. Oh my gosh, I had him in my head. See what happens?
That's what
I got the
happens.
pressure. Luca. Oh, thanks. See, Encanto.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Fun.
I'll get it. I'll send it to you guys through a digital flyer.
Well, this way you keep us in suspense.
They're good ones. I was really satisfied with staff chose. They did a good job.
Great. Speaker cards?
I have none.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Motion carries. Move to item F9.
Okay, this is a resolution before you is 2022-99, a resolution that to surplus the city-owned wrestling mats and then surplus out our wrestling mats, and once approved, staff seeks to donate our wrestling mats to Isaiah Rivera with Razorback Wrestling. The city purchased these wrestling mats back in 2009, and we had a successful wrestling program. We worked it out with the high school, and then we were at a portable building that we used, and once the high school started to renovate their buildings, that building was collapsed and removed. So we really didn't have a place to go. We tried the community center, but it interrupted the Jóvenes de Antaño's programs, their Tai Chi and other types of programs that are offered over there, because the wrestling mats were so big. So for a few years, they were stored up at Vista Park Hill, and Vista Park Hill has been having a lot of rodent problems. So we feel that, and then we were approached by Razorback, so we felt that this could be a good return, surplus it to Razorback, and in return bring back our wrestling programs and other types of community exercise programs for our youth and not just for the adults. This would be youth ranged from, I think they said 8 to 14. So that's a good age just to get our kids exercising and moving.
Great. Any questions?
Thank you, Mayor. What is the value on the mats?
That's a good question, and
I saved it for you.
When they were purchased, we purchased them for $13,000. It's been 12 years. I'm not a math. Maybe Brett can help us out with. But I know we did purchase them for 13, and the value. They are still in really good shape because they were rolled up. They just need to be disinfected at this point.
Okay, and the organization we're going to give them to, nonprofit organization?
Yes, Razorback Wrestling was actually one of the first wrestling programs within the city, and Recreation worked with them before me, and I've been with the city for quite a while. And then they kind of went their separate ways for a little bit. We brought in another program, and then now we're going back and would like to offer this gift to them.
And so as I understand it, then we're going to be able to run our recreation programs through their nonprofit so that our residents have the benefit.
Our residents will register through us, and what we would do is we would have it's called an instructor contract. So the instructor, a certain percentage of the fees would go to the instructor, and then the city would keep a certain percentage because advertising, whatever our cost is associated to that.
Sounds like a win-win to me.
I agree,
Thank you for being
yes.
open-minded to that. I think that's great. Thank you.
Yeah, this is not to embarrass Tina, but I would say it's not a gift. We're donating them so that for a benefit for the city.
Right. Councilmember Resendez.
Thank you.
I think this is fantastic. What a great opportunity for not only the Razorbacks, but for our community. And I'd like to see more of this. I know we don't have wrestling matches for everybody, right? But more of these contracts. I think that's a great partnership. And yeah, way to go, Tina. Kudos to you. Thanks.
It's a good organization.
Yes.
Mr. Rivera is very well respected there. Speaker cards.
I have none.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion
Yes.
carries.
I am done. Thank you.
Moving to F10.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. This item before you is requesting to approve the proposal from Kimley Horn to provide the city with topographic surveying of alleyways and execute a task and direct staff to execute a task order. As council may know, our alleyways are in really bad shape, and unfortunately, we don't have any type of data to be able to do any road rehabs or take advantage of the CIPs. So this essentially will provide the city with all the information that is needed.
Thank you. Is there any questions? For the sake of the audience, can you explain what this does, basically, the Topo Reports?
Yes, so essentially, in order for us to go out to bid and put plans together, we have to have elevations, drainage, high points, low points, grade breaks. So all this information is needed beforehand, because a lot of times what happens is that if we do have a CIP that is doing some road rehab, it's easy for us to extend the quantities and save money on MUP fees and other fees that will be charged if you have to start from scratch. So essentially having this data ahead of time will be easier for us to be able to put the plans together.
Yeah, so it helps understand the fall. So
Correct.
you can plan correctly, so you don't have a spot that ends up being a huge puddle.
Exactly.
So the drainage goes well, so that's why these are important.
Correct.
Thank you. Do we have any speaker cards?
We have no speakers, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Good work, guys, by the way.
Thank you.
We'll move to item F11.
Thank you, Mayor. This resolution it will be for the council to approve and authorize the city manager to execute a professional service agreement with Lorenzo Smith for interim city attorney and legal services. Any questions?
Lozano Smith.
Lozano, sorry.
Okay. Any questions from council? Do we have any speaker cards?
I have no speakers, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries. We'll move to item G1, reports from city council members regarding their committees. Councilmember Burns.
Thank you, Mayor. This past Saturday, I met with our fire marshal, Chief Bedolia, and we talked about some items of interest moving forward in budgetary issues. And so after our special meeting, we had the opportunity to spend about 2.5 hours, and I'd say it was very productive, and you'll hear more in a few minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Senden.
I've got nothing to report other than intergovernmental was canceled this past month, and then COG will be meeting this week. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Perez.
Nothing to report.
I have nothing to report either. We will now go to item G2, informational reports. Councilmember Burns.
Thank you, Mayor. So I've had some conversations with the city manager, and there have been some challenges recently with responses to inquiries in a timely manner. And so he's assured me he's all over it, and I believe he is. However, I don't know, Mr. Miller, is there currently a city policy that talks about promptness of returning calls or emails?
No, I don't believe we have a policy like that.
Okay, and so for the council's benefit, I'd like to maybe look at that a little bit closer, to maybe, as a council, recommend through consensus to the city manager that a policy would be adopted, returning calls within a 24-hour period or an email, and a policy that when staff is out of the office for, I don't know, whatever the council wants, 2, 3, or 4 or more days, that there's some sort of a notification on their email. I've had some real concerns expressed to me from the development community recently, and so I have some interest in doing that. I also have some concerns, and I've previously expressed these regarding Four Leaf as our building team, and recently I've become aware that as for a period of time as code enforcement as well, and timing's good for budget, so I would really like to have a robust conversation in regards to maybe looking at going back to full-time employees like a building official and maybe a combination building inspector, and just look at that, because the timing's really good in my opinion to do that, and so I would hope that council would be willing to entertain that thought. I do want to thank the city. Tina, I know your signature's all over this, for getting the weeds mowed at the area of Sunny Slope and Clearview. I was all set to come down here, and then I drove by and it's like, wow, it's nice, it's great. And so I'd also like to see, it's not my district, but I would like to see, I know that you've worked to get the weeds removed on Hillcrest at Memorial, and it's getting right back to where it is. And so I don't know what we need to do to incentivize the maintenance team to do that, but Clearview looks amazing, and thank you for all your work and their work as well. I think that's just a really, really good outcome. I'd also like to ask that we take another look at the non-permitted vending. And I recognize that Memorial and Hillcrest on the corner there by the park, the baseball diamonds, that might be a county jurisdiction, but I'm not sure because the folks are consistently there on the corner, on the sidewalk, and it's not really a traffic pedestrian obstruction where they're at, because shortly after that, the sidewalk stops. But I've been asking about that for probably 18 months now, and I don't know if it's that the county just doesn't have the will, doesn't have the staff, but if it is in the city jurisdiction, I do think that we could find a resource to address that, and so I would ask that we do that as well. And I'd also, sorry, just had a couple more things. I would like, knowing that we're coming forward in budget conversations, would like to ask the fire department if it's the consensus of the council to have agendized a conversation to talk. We heard the chief talk this evening about how some of the fires downtown would have been prevented through inspection had they had the resources to do that, and they don't. And so I would like to see a conversation about creating a fire bureau and talk about the resources necessary. And I think who better to do that than our fire department. And in addition to that, I've often heard that there are, that either the fire department is consistently over budget or the fire department is consistently under budgeted. And so I'd like to hear the fire department's perspective on that during a council meeting. I know that there's an ad hoc committee for the fire department. And so I'd like to hear it in a public meeting that would be, I think, advantageous. And then my final request is to have another council member please take on the fire fire council liaison position. I'm asking to be removed from that for personal reasons. And so, Mayor, thank you. That completes my comments.
Thank you. Councilmember Resendez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to take a moment to thank City Manager Brett and City Clerk Christine for just being so responsive. I've been out talking to a lot of constituents, and I sent you guys quite a few of inquiries, and you're so responsive and quick about getting back to me. So thank you. And speaking of that, I'm just wondering, do you know where we're at with the speed humps as far as getting them ordered and getting them in?
They're putting them up all over the place right now.
So we got them in? Yeah, some of them in already. Perfect. Because people keep asking, I just keep telling them, and I keep putting them on the list, but I just keep telling them that they're back ordered. But we do have some. We have some, but they are also back ordered. Okay, perfect. Awesome.
Also studies that need to happen, and so we have to collect data and do the studies and then get them into the queue.
Yep. Perfect. And I do have the spreadsheet too. That's very helpful.
Correct. But I was just going to, because just in case people can't hear it, we do have speed humps in there, but we do also have some back ordered, and there is traffic studies that still need to be finished up. So
awesome. Thank you all for being so responsive. There's a lot of inquiries about speed humps. And then Alvarado and Santa Ana, we had another accident there last night. I had somebody reach out to me. We've had several there, and that's one thing that I did reach out to City Manager about. I'm sure that you guys are all over that, but I just wanted to bring that up in a public meeting. There's been several accidents there. I think you might have brought it up before too, so I'm just wondering if we can do something about that area. Thanks.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Perez.
About getting their plaque on the archway. If we can get a consensus on that to hear from them. Well, or we can talk about that later too. Anyways, the fire prevention presentation, I agree with that. The vendor also I'd like to add on that list, and I know this one's in the city. It's the one right there by Bank America. But that's pretty much it. Grocery carts, I'd love to see that one come up too. I think that would solve our problem with if we get the magnetic ones. Yeah. Also, yeah, that's all I have. I don't have much.
Thank you. City Attorney, Mr. Burns was resigning from one of the committees. Is that something we could appoint tonight?
I'd ask that you not do it tonight.
Yeah,
It should be agendized for a
agendize
future
that so
meeting.
we can do that.
Thank you.
The only reason I'm asking that because that meeting's coming up soon.
Mm.
So on the 20, I think they moved to 26th. Yeah. Okay, we'll figure out how we can try to do that.
Is there currently an alternate assigned to that? No?
I believe there was. No. Well, we gotta go through the whole process then. We can't do it today is what he's saying.
I will place that on the agenda for June 6th.
Okay. Yeah, oh yeah. we can do that.
There wouldn't be anything preventing you from attending as a public.
Yeah. So I don't have anything. City manager?
The only thing I would like to thank Councilmember Perez and Councilmember Morales for joining me for the ribbon cutting for Zero Avia. It was great to see all the work that we did through the fence agreement, and they were very thankful for everything the city has done for them, and they're actually have plans to do some expansion in the near future. So it was very nice to go out there and see all the work that you've done and see how it benefits somebody. So it was really nice. Thank you.
Speaking of that, I do have something I remember now.
Oh.
Want to let everyone know 3 of our local high school students that are part of the robotics club received $15,000 each from Apple as a scholarship. Yeah. And a computer. So really great program. I really encourage all the young people out there to get involved in this program and all the other great programs that high school has to offer. Really cool stuff. So, Mr. Burns?
Mayor, I did have one final thought or comment not related to that, but congratulations, that's amazing. And so I have a question for the city clerk, and you may be bringing this up anyway. I know that, Mayor, you and I met with our clerk and an attorney from BB&K. Did I get that right? That's right. Perfect. I love the acronyms. And so this council did ask for an update as it related to city council members going out and making comments and wearing their city council stuff. And so I recall that was discussed, and where do we stand on that? As I recall, I thought that there was going to be a letter forthcoming to detail that. And so I don't know if you want to respond now or if you want to respond during your clerk comments. Either way works for me.
I honestly thought I would have that already. It was supposed to be a follow-up to the email that he had sent with all the resolutions for ballot measures. And I believe what he's going to do is 2 memos, one on the constitutionality of Ordinance 1202, and the second on political...
right to speak?
Yeah.
Which
So I will send a quick email to him tomorrow, and I hope to have something emailed to you all by hopefully the end of this week. But I'm not sure what his time frame is.
Okay.
I thought he was in the review process of it, though.
Thanks, I appreciate that. Thank you, Mayor.
The city attorney?
Thank you. No statement, Mr. Mayor.
Chief?
Just in the spirit of everybody thanking everybody else, Captain Brooks, who retired as captain from the Hollister Police Department in 2009, and then came back to work for the city for multiple different jobs, from mowing the lawn at the airport, code enforcement, parking, anything that the city needed, he stepped forward and helped us. He is finally retiring for like the 10th time. and he's actually going to be moving away. So I wanted to publicly thank Captain Brooks. He's been a tremendous help. Great captain. He was always fun to be with, very knowledgeable. And then he was always willing, the epitome of wanting to help the city. But they're moving away, and I want to thank him for all his years of service and wish him the best in his 10th retirement now. So,
Good guy, good guy. City Clerk?
I will be bringing back on June 6th the ballot measures. Actually, I won't be bringing them back. Nova will be bringing those back because I am going to be working the elections on June 6th. And then she'll also be clerking the meeting for me on the 21st as I'm going to attempt another vacation. And hopefully we'll make it this time. So she'll be clerking those two. But I'll be working with her on getting those resolutions ready.
Would it be possible to give us an overview of what the attorney said about the speech? Because I find it odd that there are groups of people that demand to be heard, but then demand that somebody else doesn't say anything. And I just think it's really important for the public to know because of the constant problems we have with this. Did you?
I can expound upon that.
Okay.
Sure. During our committee meeting, I was caught by surprise, but it's my understanding that there's always been a universal perception that during public comment that council members are not allowed to respond. And Mr. Priest, who is the attorney that we're working with, told us that ultimately that's not true, that council members can absolutely respond. And so I would actually like to see maybe an addition to the ordinance so that it's clear, because if anybody was unclear on it, it was me. It was like a aha moment. And so I think there's value to that, and I would hope that that would be maybe be part of his white paper. So thank you, Mayor.
I just want to say, I think it's important to understand because too many times there's been people here claiming violation of Brown Act, run off and write stories about violation of Brown Act to find out nobody's ever violated the Brown Act for that. And it's just important for the public to understand the truth, the laws, and how it really works. And again, you can't say, I can speak, but you can't speak, and back and forth. So we all have the right. But what we don't have is, as we mentioned before, is campaigning within here at the chambers would not be appropriate. So I thank you for getting that information so the public can know it. All right, City Clerk, anything else you want to add?
No.
Thank you. So, okay, we did the code enforcement. We're going to go to item G4.
Sorry about that. At the March 21st, 2022 City Council meeting, Council adopted a resolution number 2022-48, which adopted the bylaws for the Art and Culture Commission and Public Art Policy. The Commission established an effective method to include a liaison between the city and the San Benito Art Council, along with local youth members. And the bylaws state that the Art and Cultural Commission shall consist of 5 voting members appointed by City Council and 2 youth members who will be voting members and will be comprised of youth who reside in the city of Hollister between the ages of 12 and 18. We have received 2 applications, District 3 and District 3 Angelo Hillstock and District 4 Sarah Stopper. And I'm hoping that council will ratify the appointments and add the 2 youths to the Art and Culture Commission.
Excellent. Any questions, comments from council?
Yeah.
Is there a consensus to ratify the appointments?
I just wanted to say, in reviewing the applications, I cannot say how excited I am. I mean, these folks are all in, and they are really going to make this committee take off, I think. And and we need that perspective as well. So, I mean, talk about a well-rounded, well-balanced committee. I think this is great, and I look forward to seeing their work.
I agree. These are
Quick
two
comment.
young people that are really out there and nonstop making things happen.
Yes, also it's like to see our youth stepping up to these types of committees. It actually, to tell you the truth, I'm a little disappointed with the public participation at some of our meetings, especially this last Saturday. But to see our youth stepping up, especially being so well-rounded, I commend you and I thank you for stepping up and being part of these committees.
Mayor, I'd also like to say I think it's amazing, and this council gets some of the credit in this case because these are just not advisory positions. These folks are actually going to vote on moving projects forward. And so I think that makes a world of difference too. I think their voice matters, and I think this council recognizes that. So congratulations to the council. We've now got two people that I can't wait to see their work.
I agree. So there was a consensus to move that forward.
Yes.
All right, thank you. We're now going to move to item G5.
And there was no public comment on that one.
Oh.
There was no public comment.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Tonight we're providing you an update on the Downtown Gateway Monument sign. At the special City Council meeting of April 25th, 2022, the City Council adopted a resolution that approved an appropriation and a professional services agreement with Signs by Van. At that meeting, we said we'd bring back a couple of the renderings and proposed locations that you guys can review, and we could also get the community engagement part of it. We have them ready for you guys to review. So this is one of the proposed location before arriving at the Veterans Building. This is where currently we have the banners that go over San Benito Street. So there is current structure there, which currently kind of leads us to believe that it would be a good location where they could install the sign. So that's one of the locations. And then the next one is on 5th and San Benito. So at this time, staff is just seeking for direction on what way you guys would like to proceed.
Wow. Okay, Councilmember Resendez.
So we don't know for certain that there's not utilities that are going to prevent these signs from going up there?
No, not yet. Right now, we just kind of take a look.
Well, I've got to say that I'm a little biased. If you didn't hear me last time, I thought this wasn't going to be an option, and they're both absolutely gorgeous. I'm so excited about it. But of course, I'm going to go back to my previous statement. I think that just the backdrop of those buildings, they're historic. I think they're absolutely gorgeous. It's one block in from when you first drive in, and it reminds me of Lodi. I don't know if I said it at the last meeting, but I went to Lodi quite a few times. Their sign's a little bit different, but I remember it was like just like a block right when you walk in, and it's just nice. And then you've got all these other little shopping areas, all the side streets. So I'm excited. I think it's absolutely gorgeous. And of course, I am very much in favor of putting it right there on down the street from us. I think it looks gorgeous. Thanks.
I think it does look good there, I got to say, with the buildings.
I
He was right. Once you see the picture, you can visualize it. So
I thought they were going to do 3 sites, so 5th, 6th, and 7th, and actually I thought 7th was going to be more towards the corner. But I mean, the other one looks cool. I mean, so I thought we were just going to have more options.
Yeah, I actually went down with Jeremy when he went to take the pictures, and those were the two suggested locations. Aesthetically, the one right on 7th, you see the gas station right there. It just didn't look as well, and those was his two professional recommendations.
I like this one.
Yeah,
And
I
then
liked it.
Yeah.
I believe Tina received some feedback from the Arts and Cultural Commission, if you guys are interested in hearing that portion of it. Yeah.
She's back.
I am. I'm sorry. If I recall correctly, our Art and Culture Commission responded with asking, saying that a monumental sign, there's some history there, kind of displays what our community is about, and does this sign display that? So that was some of their questions. Will go to, if I can borrow it, since it looks so good, we'll go to our commission tomorrow. They have a meeting, and we'll present this to them if approved tonight, or whatever direction the council wishes. But it did not go to their original meeting. I just sent an email out, and I asked for each person to respond individually, and that was some of their comments.
So Mayor, I would like to suggest that this doesn't feel like it's any longer time sensitive to me, and I would like to hear from the commission before we make a decision, because otherwise, why do we have a commission? And so that would be my request.
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, 100% agree. And honestly, whatever they decide, I'm going to support it. Mr. Burns brings up a great point.
We probably should have asked for a Plan A and Plan B, just in case there is utilities underneath there that we can't use at first.
Yeah,
first
I
spot.
think we're seeing Plan A and Plan B.
Okay, I just want to make sure that some kind of direction.
I think it's just, oh, there's the expert himself. Yeah, he's in his car watching.
What did I miss?
We're just talking about the two locations. As you pointed out, once you see it in a picture, you'll be able to see it. And you are absolutely right. It just really jumps out in that way. So, nice. Really nice. But I know we talked about it's not time sensitive, but it still kind of is. We still want to try to keep it on track somewhat.
Yeah,
Sure. Probably not going to make August 6th, but we do want to get it
By the 7th.
soon after.
Yeah, 7th.
So any other professional recommendations that you had there? Or?
Just getting the funds received. I think we're going to be taking care of that very soon here in the next few days. Get the material ordered, send it out for engineering immediately. And once we have an exact spot, again, is that kind of what we're all leaning towards, is that location there? Because I think it looks...
I did love that. Others, go back with the older buildings back there.
Okay.
That's kind of nice.
No.
Still
Yeah, we're going to have to bring this back. Well, my thing I was going to ask you is, earlier on my G2, we were asking, there was someone else that was asking about putting a plaque on that. And so how do we work that timing to see if we're interested in putting that plaque, of allowing the clampers to put that plaque on there, and getting that decision done here to coincide with your build over there?
Yeah, so adding plaques on the grand scheme of things is a very small addition, very, very easy to do. So cost-wise, minuscule, time frame, minuscule. You can really, City of Salinas, and again, we're not copying what they're doing in any way, but the way that they did theirs is they had an area on there that said established, so the established date of the city, and then also had the city seal and or a couple of the other agencies that really felt like they wanted to have their plaque on there, as long as, you know, the council approves it. So there's room to put 4 on each pillar.
Oh, okay.
So we have plenty of room, and what you do is you actually we'll break out the stone and we'll inset those seals, and they look really nice. So, and I can actually send some photographs of those if you like tomorrow morning, and then they can forward them on and show them to everybody.
Okay. Mr. Burns?
So that I'm clear, the first sign is at 5th or 6th? 5th. So that's the building right down here with the big old tube on it, and the sidewalk all closed off. That's been that way for how many years? Long time? No?
The what?
No,
I'm sorry?
not even the
were
bar
they
and
in demo
grill
work?
down here.
It's been maybe 6 months now or something.
Okay, all right. Seems
6
like
months
forever.
too long.
I agree.
If I'm not mistaken, the vault is right there on the right, correct? I mean, you can just barely see the corner right there.
Yeah.
You could see the vault sign right there in the corner.
Yeah.
So That's right down here?
Yeah.
Huh. I'm losing my mind. How soon will we know? What do we have to commit? It sounds like we need to commit to a specific location, and after we do that, then we'll figure out if the utilities are an opportunity or a challenge. Is that how it goes, or?
So engineering can start immediately, as soon as funds are procured. As far as where the location goes, the drawings and everything, engineering is going to take about 2 to 3 weeks. So we have a couple weeks. We don't need to decide this in the next 7 to 10 days. We have some time. And when we went and took a look at both locations, you know, I'm no expert at underground, but it would be safe to say that those two areas that we looked at and that we mocked those up, there doesn't seem like there would be a lot of utilities in that area. There was nothing that jumped out at us and said, that's going to be a hot spot for utilities. So, but we won't know until, I mean, we could also check both locations and
Okay.
see what might be better.
Well, I think that would be helpful in my perspective.
Sure.
And the other question I would have is, we see this going south on San Benito Street. It'd be also nice to see what it looks like going north on San Benito Street to get that perspective as well.
Okay.
And I've heard you say as long as the money is in your hand, that we can move forward. So I'm 100% supportive of this, always have been.
Sure.
But I also heard you say that 2 or 3 weeks isn't going to make a difference in site location at this time. Is that correct?
A lot of things go into place, so I can get the materials and I can get the engineering going. All of those things don't have any connection to where that sign is moved onto the street. The only connection that has to where it's moved on the street is what the underground looks like. So if we have to shift it 6 feet one way or another, that's going to be the determinant factor. Everything else starts moving immediately. The progress of the whole ship takes off.
Okay.
And then we have a couple weeks, 3-4 weeks to decide exactly where we want that thing to be.
Okay, that's very helpful for me, Mayor. I would suggest, again, I very much want to hear what our commission or committee says in regards to this, and I also think it would be helpful for Councilmember Morales to be present if it's possible as well, to come to some conclusion on the exact specific location, but. It looks amazing. I'm excited for it. No matter where you put it, it's like boom. And so, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Sanders.
And I just, to echo what he said about both sides, I think that's going to really give us a nice visual, how it looks on both sides, because the backdrop's going to change. And I like putting it in the hands of the Arts and Culture Commission too. Okay. So I think if they can get both views, let them decide on first, second, and then just bring it back quickly here for a consent. That's what would be my position.
Okay, and that's just a different, looking at the monument from the other direction.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it. Perfect.
One facing
North and
south.
Perfect.
One
I can
facing
do
north.
that.
But I think the point I think I'm hearing is really, at the end of the day, you have people are going to come take pictures with that sign, both ways.
A lot of people.
A lot of people. So what frames it better?
Sure, that's a
because
valid question.
I think you made a really good statement about one location had the Chevron station behind, not the best backdrop, but I like the way you did this. It really, I think it's helpful for most people.
Yeah.
To have a better visual of it. So
sure,
knowing how that looks facing north would also be helpful from both locations.
Since we have a couple weeks, would it be helpful if I printed out a larger version of that and we actually maybe picked an afternoon to go down? It'll only take about 15 to 20 minutes and we can walk downtown and look at it from both angles and we can scale it and really see exactly what it's going to look like. As soon as we do a cutout of it, it's going to make, I mean, if that visual, looking at both ways, if that doesn't fully fulfill what we're looking for, the best way to do is go do it out in person and you get a look and a feel.
We could do that, but then we'd have to schedule a special meeting.
So could that be like that image or cutout that you have? Because that's what you do, correct?
Yeah, it's essentially you just walk it right into place.
Is that something that you can just drop off here and then?
Of course.
We
100%.
Can we look at it ourselves? What's a cutout?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that something that we can do legally, Jason?
I'm sorry, were you referring to have a special meeting where you go down and actually look at it?
No, just if he drops off the cutout, that we can come and look at it ourselves.
Individually.
Yes, that's fine. No problem with that.
Councilmember Sanders?
Sorry, I know I'm talking a lot on this item. I apologize. I'd also ask for you to invite the 150th committee.
Sure.
I don't necessarily want or need to go down there. I'd like for them to make the decision. 150th and the Arts and Culture Commission to go out there. I don't know if you're gonna have to agendize a meeting for that, Tina, but I think, again, I'd like to get more feedback from our partners in the community. So
Well,
that would be a good way of
actually,
doing that.
so, I'm sorry. Actually, so I am on that committee, so maybe I can just pick it up for our Friday meeting. And, you know, if time allows us during the meeting to go out there and we can all look at it.
Okay, it's from Brent. Go, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Also, I'm wondering, it's hard to get a clear vision from the photographs currently where the pillars or the columns are in relation to the street or the sidewalk, and how the ballards, I think is what you refer to them are, how that's gonna look as well. I think that, you know, are we gonna lose parking spaces as a result of that, or
No.
how are we gonna protect those signs? Because last thing I wanna see is a drunk into one if we can avoid it.
Yeah, we can do a couple different things. Either, I mean, a curb is not gonna prevent somebody from rolling into the sign. So regardless, you're gonna have to have a bollard, multiple bollards going in either direction. Well, actually, it's single direction traffic. So we could put bollards on one side. And by that, I would probably say, we'd have to look at the state code. I believe there's a 36 or 40 inch minimum, so people aren't tripping over them as well. They're tall enough, about waist high. And we'll surround both. So the impact might be to lose a parking spot, or we could convert it to a motorcycle parking spot, something to that effect. So we're not essentially losing an entire spot.
I can tell you at that location, you're not losing any spots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm very familiar with it.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
I guess my other thought too is, since we have people backing into the parking stalls there,
Sure.
I think it is important to protect it on all angles. Just I don't want to see somebody that doesn't know how to back right into it if we were to only prevent that on one side. Just my 2 cents.
High vis paint, we're just gonna have to punch through the pavement, take an auger out there, drop a steel bollard in place, and then just repave around it with some hot pavement.
Yeah, and again, this location in this picture, it's far away from any of the parking spots, so that's not gonna happen. Not to say somebody doesn't come racing down the street and hit it like they will anywhere, but you're correct, the bollards around it would.
It'll
solve
stop
that
an
problem.
impact unless someone's doing 70 miles an hour, and at that point,
Well, I never thought you could park a car upside down in a cemetery either, but
I've been a firefighter for 10 years. I've seen a lot of things in my day too, so trust me, I've seen a lot.
That was my first on that, so
yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. So again, if we get the picture north-south,
I can do that.
both locations, I think it helps, again, frame what it'll look like when people are out there taking pictures. They're
Sure.
souvenirs.
And I have those stock photos already in hand, so we'll render those out tomorrow, and you should have them in your hand by Thursday, Friday.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? Public comment?
Elias Salinas?
Thank you. That looks really great. I would like to remind the council that the mayor owns property at that corner, and the mayor is not allowed to vote and make a decision on this. And I would like the council attorney to make it, to remind the council that when there is a conflict of interest, especially because there's money that's being spent, please abide by the rules. Thank you.
Just so you know, and again, it's unfortunate that happens, but that's an incorrect statement, because I'm not making money from the location of the sign or anything else. So it's sad, so sad that things like that have to be said to try to mislead the public. Learn the law. Thank you. Anything else?
I have one more speaker. Celeste Toledo Bacanegra.
Hello. I would like to second that with the previous speaker, Elias Salinas. I also agree with her. I don't approve of that corner or that spot due to the vault being there. And second, one concern as a citizen, the height of vehicles. I know the company who's putting it up. I know I know they probably understand that the vehicles are going to be okay, but I just want to make sure that trucks may accidentally pass by there. Is it the height high enough? I just want to make sure that's safety for vehicles to pass by there. Thank you.
I'm going to respond to that.
Any other speakers?
Go ahead, sir.
I have no more speakers other than.
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, just to speak to that concern. So we're gonna go by all Department of Transportation regulations for the height of the sign. Not only are we going to account for the minimum, but we're probably going to go about another 1.5 feet higher than what's allowed for an over the roadway sign. So that whole issue is going to be mitigated just based on how we're going to fabricate the sign, because we of course don't want anybody else to hit it either. So just to answer that question.
Thank you. I guess I just have to close by saying, how sad is it that we have to talk about not putting a sign somewhere to somehow punish me for having a building in downtown? I mean, come on, folks. This is a beautiful sign. If we get a beautiful location, it has nothing to do with me. I don't get any money out of this. And it's just sad to hear people make this. No, I'm sorry. Wishful thinking again. I'm sorry, ma'am, you don't have the floor here. But it's just sad. Let's get past this, folks, please. And again, thank you for your all your work.
Mayor, do we have to ask that this be put on the next council agenda tonight so that it comes back in 2 weeks?
I think it's going to be brought back, as I understood, right? You can.
Yeah, we'll bring it back.
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure we don't.
And I would say too, I think we talked about this, getting the public's view on this also, because that's an important part. We talked about painting the letters and letting the public participate. They made a good decision and it all worked out, so they had a good sense of things.
Would you like us to do like a Google survey and put it on our social media?
I think put it out there. Again, pictures north-south of both locations so people can see it and visualize it and understand that, and then we get some participation. Go ahead, sir.
The only concern I have is that we do have people that might want to make it biased, I would say. So if you are going to do a Google survey, ensure that they're getting their emails that it's required and it's like a real email, because we do have lots of people that use fake accounts to try to, again, change the narrative and use it personally, politically attack people. So I would be careful with that. Maybe put it on Facebook. You could do a simple poll that forces people without fake accounts to get involved. I think that's like probably the best way to get people involved here. And then again, the Arts and Culture Commission, the stakeholders that are helping us with the 150th, this is why we're doing it. And just, I would really make that clear. It's our 150th birthday celebration for the city of Hollister, and we decided to do this. And then, of course, everything's you'd have to get signed off by PD and FD, I would hope, as well. Thanks.
Thank you.
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
One final thought. I honestly don't know that it needs that degree. Again, I have 100% confidence in our Arts and Culture Commission and the 150 Celebration Committee and HDA. I think at the end of the day, quite honestly, those folks represent our community at large, and I have 100% confidence in them, and I would be happy with that consensus myself to avoid any other questions arising or misrepresentation. So that would be my recommendation, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you, guys.
The only thing we have left is H1. City Clerk.
City Manager?
Yeah, just if there's anything else that you jumped out that you had questions on, but that's just informational.
Any questions from council members on this unfinished business? Hearing none, we will go to adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Aye. Motion carries.
8:51. Woo, woo.
Recording stopped.